This guy out. Hey, so thanks for having me. My name is Steve Clark. I'm with Fortinet. My role is I'm on the cloud team here for the East Coast. So I support everything that we do in the 5 major clouds that we're in. So we're going to kind of talk about that. In addition to supporting the 5 major clouds, I work with partners like Green Pages. I work with the Fortinet reps. So I wear very many hats. I spent about 4 years at Palo Alto Networks. Spent 7 years at Cisco. I sold my first firewall back in 1995. It was a company called Checkpoint. You guys are probably familiar with that. Actually, I sold it running on Epsilon blocks, which was before Nokia bought them. So I've been peddling security for a long time. What I want to do today is talk about Fortinet, cloud adoption trends and pain points, what we're seeing around digital transformation. Some best practices, what we do specifically within AWS, our fabric approach, and then lastly, it's always great to have a use case. So before I do that, 2 quick questions. Does everyone in the room know who Fortinet is? Okay. How many people in this room are DevOps versus network and security? So good mix. Okay. And then how many people have a digital transformation project going on within the company? Okay. So Fortinet, I don't have a clicker, so I apologize. I keep walking back and forth. Problem with the new Macs is there's no USBs on them. Fortinet was founded in 2000 by Ken Z. He was actually one of the founders at NetScreen, so he's been doing the security thing for a long time. Today we have 100 offices, 5,000 employees worldwide. We'll finish this year, we're in a fiscal, right here? Perfect. We'll finish this year somewhere probably around $1.8 billion, $1.7 billion. The one thing that's really important, not a revenue standpoint, but the number of appliances we have out there. We have hundreds of thousands of appliances out there. We have more appliances than any other security vendor. 3.6 million, to be specific, and 340,000 customers. And also 467 patents. We have more patents in security than the next 2 competitors combined. So this is really our sweet spot. What I'm seeing out there today is that by 2019, 80% of all IT budgets will be committed to cloud solutions. The main term here is cloud first, right? Every CIO sit down with, every CISO sit down with. If it's an application, it's going into the cloud until you can't prove it secure, and it's probably still going in the cloud anyway, right? There's a major push, obviously, to get out of data centers. The other thing I want to talk about, too, is by 2020, 90% of enterprises will be in multiple clouds. So I apologize. I know we're here at AWS Community Days. But I'm talking with a very large car company that sells cars in big brick buildings, and they are both in AWS and they're both in Azure as well. Right? So we're seeing a lot of customers are going to be in multifaceted cloud solutions. I'm not going to read this one. It's pretty straightforward. Digital transformation is about the areas of business resulting in fundamental changes. Perfect scenario of a failed digital transformation, Blockbuster. Netflix destroyed them. Right? To think about that. I'll give you another example. Pitney Bowes. So Pitney Bowes, if you're as old as me, you remember used to go up and run the little thing to get the postage, right? Well, Pitney Bowes now has innovated themselves. So they now have video for their customers. They have mobile ability for their customers. Good example, Pitney Bowes. Bad example, right? Obviously, Blockbuster. And Porsche. Porsche's working on what they're doing in the car, right? Everyone's seeing the Apple Play in some of the new vehicles, right? So Porsche's taking that to the next level. So that's what digital transformation is about. It's taking technology and making it better within the environment for the customer. Problem with digital transformation is I have more endpoints. I have IoT devices. I have Macs. I have phones, right? So how do I secure all that? If we think about the reason why people are going to the cloud, there's a bunch of them on here. My favorite one is cloud first allows you to react to the business. Allows you to react to the business, right? The line of business. Other areas on here, CapEx to OpEx, right? This cost savings. I don't necessarily agree with this cost savings. It's cost shift. Definitely more, like I said, in the CapEx to OpEx model. Geographical reach, time to market, right? This is where, obviously, the business says, hey, we need to do something. We need to do it fast. This is what cloud's allowing us to do. It's allowing us to do that on digital transformation. Problem with it, security, right? I was in the last one earlier, security breaches. My parents are 75 years old. They know what a breach is. 10 years old, they have no idea what a breach is. Right? I mean, every single person out there understands the breach that's occurring out there, right? Whether it's Equifax, TD Bank, I've probably been compromised maybe 7 times. Equifax, right? The most recent one was Facebook, Uber, we can go on and on and on. Problem is you have to pay attention to securing these. And then there's compliance, right? So you have the new European compliance. We have the new financial standard compliance in New York. There's another one in California. Digital transformation is great, but there's a lot of complexity to securing it. Just talked about this. The whole surface is expanded. If we go back to, right here, okay? A couple years ago, right, it was a box. It was a Catalyst 5000 with a PIX hanging off it, right? The network was the core, right? Now I've got public cloud, private cloud. I may be sitting in rack space. I may be sitting in someone else's cloud. I've got access devices all over the place, and I've got IoT devices. So the attack surface is huge now, right? We actually acquired Bradford Networks 3 months ago to help with IoT, for instance, right? Obviously, it's a big area that we see out there. So I'm going to kind of walk through this, right? So the problem with digital security is you have to make a point in time. So the first point in time here is identify the attack surface. If I don't know what's there, I really can't protect it. Once I've done that, I got to protect against the known threats. Those are the easy ones, right? After I've done that, detect the unknown threats, right? So how am I doing this? What am I using from IDS, IPS? What am I doing with endpoint discovery? Obviously, rapid response is key. The idea that I'm going to prevent 100% of threats is unrealistic. 90%, probably pretty good. 99%, really where I'd like to try to be. I'm never going to prevent everything. Some of the sessions I sat through earlier, right, I have to trust assessment. I have to have someone come in and actually validate what I'm doing. Someone's got to come in at least once a year, maybe once every 6 months, right? Self-testing, using tools like scanners like Rapid7. Let me figure out what's going on in my applications. The typical company today, Global 2000, has 30 point products. That's way too many, right? So they have a different device for AV. They have a different device to do endpoint protection. Then they probably have someone doing application security. They probably have someone doing app security on the database, app security on the endpoints, right? Just too many devices that are out there. There's too many consoles, by the way, too, right? No offense, if using Fortinet, you might have a Fortinet console, but you might also have a console for your scanning device, like a Rapid7. You might also have a console for something else you're doing, an application or an imperva for a WAF, right? Just too many consoles. If we go back to what happened at Target, they had all the stuff. They had too many consoles. The FireEye stuff was going off like crazy. No one was paying attention to it. And obviously, there's too many devices out there from a form factor standpoint. I'm supporting both PCs, Macs, mobile devices, right? Just a lot of points of aggression out there. It's tough to manage all that. Talked about this earlier, the noise of this. The skill set. Forrester claims by 2020, we need 1.5 million security professionals. Today, it is about 850,000. By 2025, we need 2 million security professionals. I have an 18-year-old. I'm trying to push him to go towards this space, right? This is a very interesting market. But the problem, too, is it's very immature, right? What we're finding is 50% of the people being hired, they probably would never get that position 3 years ago. So we're finding companies have to bring in someone junior, train them, and then have them work within the organization. Last thing here is the time to market from a speed aspect standpoint, right? There's obviously many, many pieces of malware that are getting out there. How do you contain those? Some of the things that we're doing are very interesting, the ability to quarantine things on some of our new versions of code when we see things going on the endpoint. So once again, this is all really neat stuff, but it's all siloed. I got to automate all this, right? I have to bring it all together with a single pane of glass, or i.e. a security fabric solution. One of the things that I find is the people that my coworkers talk to, maybe some of the people at Green Pages talk to, we're terrible at talking to people on the DevOps side. So someone in line of business says, you know what, let's roll out SAP. Roll out SAP, start playing with it. 9 months later, someone in security says, holy shit, what's going on? No one took the time to talk to the security folks. Second thing we're seeing a lot is once that's done, there's also nothing from the network standpoint, and then no one's going out and managing that and keeping track of that information. So automation and orchestration is very key to what we're trying to deliver. We're working with some of the companies to provide that automation so that you don't have to know everything about security. It helps, but we can implement this within like an AWS framework or a Azure framework. This is my favorite slide. The cloud's the new core. So I talked about this earlier. If you think about it, 1995, right? I had a Catalyst 6000 sitting in the core. I had a couple switches. Everything, all the servers are in there. Everything was in one bucket. If I had an issue, I walk down to the data center, right? Or I walk down to Markley downtown, or I walk down to AT&T downtown. That's not the case anymore. The cloud is the core, so it's everywhere. So I have to find a way to be able to secure this. So cloud security is a shared responsibility. Has anyone seen a slide like this before? It's not just the security folks who have to do this. I was talking to a friend of mine earlier, right? It's getting people to do phishing attacks within your own organization. At a previous company I was a manager, I had a guy click on the, guess what, there's a mistake on your ADP payroll, you're not going to get paid tomorrow? Guess what he clicked on? It was a phishing attack. Thankfully, it was a phishing attack that we did internally. So as you guys in your organizations, I would recommend you start doing some broad knowledge around that. When I was at Cisco years ago, we came out with an endpoint solution. And we had a demo that said, if you click on this, your machine will blow up. And it said, by the way, no, seriously, it'll blow up. No, it will blow up. You guarantee someone's going to click on it. They want the day off, right? So someone's going to actually do that. So in this model here, what we're talking about is, the customer, and I just sat through this with AWS, the customer owns a big chunk of this. You guys own the platform. You own the application. You own the encryption. AWS is going to do some of this, right, with availability zones, security zones. But the reality is AWS is also going to recommend you bring in somebody else to help with this, whether it's Fortinet or someone else in that space. So this is some of the things that I get this question asked a lot of times. What does it AWS Firewall, or more importantly, recently, Azure's Firewall do? It's really like a layer 3 firewall, right? So for the folks who aren't really security folks in the room, what that means is it might tell me what the application is, but it's not going to tell me it's Facebook. The other things that you're not going to get are things like application control. You're not going to get intrusion prevention, right? You're probably not going to get web filtering, otherwise known as web application firewalls. So this is where if you go to the marketplace, you'll find vendors like us, like Sophos, and others who are going to give you that added ability to make sure that what you're running in AWS is more secure than what you have today. If I'm Steve Clark and I have Steve Clark's popsicle stand company on AWS, I probably use what AWS has, should be day one, and then take a look at what are some of the other functionality that I want to incorporate. What else do I want to secure? I'm going to run through 3 best practices that we see. I should say more like use cases that we see within AWS. So the first one's obviously is auto-scaling. Everyone's familiar with auto-scaling, right? So if you think about AWS, they came out of Amazon because Amazon was selling a lot of stuff, and they didn't want to buy data centers anymore. Right? So auto-scaling, I use the example, we all live here, and guess what's happening in 2 months? Snow. Right? So the ability to fire up a bunch of voice connections, but then also bring those connections back down. Right? So it's kind of the model if I pay for it, almost like timeshare. Right? I just need it really quickly for short bursts. So we can secure that, obviously, with our FortiGates, which is our firewall. Next one is segmented traffic across clouds. So this is the ability to segment across VPCs. I like to talk about in this example, Forrester has a thing they call zero trust architecture. So zero trust architecture means you're an employee, you have to earn my trust. I decide when to let you on the network. So we're finding more and more customers have a firewall at the perimeter, but they'll use somebody else within the core of the data center. So this is an example where you may use FortiGates, maybe a financial services firm. You may have checkpoint at the perimeter. So we allow you to secure those workloads within those multiple VPCs. And a common one we see a lot is around VPN. So I've already got a solution available. Now I want to move my VPN users. Once again, it's nice for disaster recovery. It's nice if I grow my organization, I can actually move VPN users pretty rapidly. And we do this with FortiGate and FortiWeb. And also we have a product on it called FortiManager, which manages all those different instances. So our goal, I talked about it was too many consoles, too many products. Our goal is to give you a single pane of glass. And that single pane of glass doesn't matter if you're in VM, using a VM technology, or if you're using Microsoft Azure or AWS or Google or Oracle or IBM. We actually support our solution in all 5 of those. We also have what we call open APIs, or fabric connectors, which allow us to connect to other vendors that aren't on here. Alibaba, for instance, if we're doing something in China. Right? So there's other technology vendors that are out there. So what is our security fabric story? So I'm going to start with the inside here. Obviously, we talked about the network. We have partner APIs. We have IoT devices, unified access, advanced threat prevention. We also play in the email space. We did a big announcement at Azure last week where we give the capability of running a CASB, supporting Office 365, Mail to protect Office 365, and 40 Analyzer, which allows me to analyze all that traffic and help me make rapid decisions. And then also web applications. So we have a solution for web application firewalls as well. Won't go through all this, but this is the footprint of what Fortinet does. I've mentioned pretty much most of this, except for over here with 40SEM, where we have a security event monitoring tool as well. Can't do it all by yourself, right? So a huge partner ecosystem. It's really funny to see Cisco on here, but we actually work with Cisco from an SDN standpoint. There's a couple others that we work with if you think about it from an IoT device standpoint. I mentioned that we acquired Bradford, but we also work with Forescout as well. I think we support on the endpoint, CyberReason, SentinelOne. So we want to have a very open architecture, right? We realize we're not going to sell you every solution to support what you guys are doing from a security standpoint. So we're the only firewall vendor in Oracle's public cloud as well. So we're seeing a big push for Oracle. Oracle's obviously very late to the game, but they're clearly making a run at supporting OCI, which is their solution for the cloud. We obviously have a solution within IBM as well. And from a product availability standpoint, this is one of those eye chart slides, so I apologize. But as you can see from an AWS standpoint, we support gateways, we support mail, we support security event monitoring tools. We've got a neat solution up here called FortiVoice, so we can actually put a phone system right in the cloud as well and make it secure. So what do we bring to the table for people like yourselves? Obviously, a layered network security approach. Deep inspection to look for threats and visibility. A single pane of glass approach. So I talked about the ability to take feeds from like a Splunk or a logarithm, roll that right into our security fabric solution. We've built a lot of templates, and some of the people ask me, what's the difference between AWS and Azure? I'm like, the underbelly is totally different, right? How you do things from the VPC aspect within AWS versus Azure is dramatically different. The networking aspects are very different. Our biggest challenge is the same challenge you guys, is having the right resources. We have about a dozen SAs who work on the cloud team that do nothing but support calls like that. We'll get a call request from the field going, can you jump on a call to talk about FortiGate? And reality is it's more to talk about AWS. It's more to talk about Azure. So if you guys are having those challenges, we're there to help out with that. I'd say half our first calls have nothing to do with Fortinet. They're a Fortinet customer, and they say, hey, we want to understand how is it you guys are different within Azure? How are you different within AWS? So I promised you at least one case study. This is a perfect one. So Steelcase, everyone familiar with Steelcase? Fortune, I think, 500 company, right? So the reason they brought us in is more about IoT. They wanted to track all their dealer inventory, everything that was out there, and all via the cloud. They're using both AWS and Azure to do this. And what's kind of neat is, from a Fortinet standpoint, they really bought into pretty much everything that we brought to bear. Obviously, they were an existing customer, but clearly for them, it was more about the ability to have parity. Our code version is the same, no matter whether it's in Azure, AWS, Google, or Oracle. That's not, a lot of vendors can't make that same claim. I promised on the woman that back I'd be done in 30 minutes. I'm at 25 minutes and 30 seconds. So I'm going to leave time for questions. Anyone have any questions, please? OK. Well, thank you for your time.